Hello, thank you, and welcome to anyone who clicked on my video. Today I will be going over my top 20 defensemen in the NHL, and while I'm doing that, I will be actively comparing my list to the NHL Network's list. Um, let's get into it. Uh, First, I'll go over some honorable mentions, some guys I left off. Shea Theodore was very close to being on here, and Travis Sanheim is another one. Philip Hronik, uh, Sam Malinsky. Sam Malinsky was incredible this year for Colorado. I could see, I would not be adamantly against any of those guys being in the top 20. I'll say this just so everyone knows I don't forget about him. One guy that's not going to be here is Brock Faber. I don't think very highly of him. Obviously, he is a good player, but I don't think he's nearly the player that his reputation claims. So he's not here. I think he's more of a 35 to 50 type of guy instead of top 20 or honorable mention. But so let's talk about my list and the NHL Network's list. The NHL Network has Devon Toews at 20, Shea Theodore at 19, Victor Hedman at 18, Jackson Lacombe at 17, and Josh Morrissey at 16. Mine is a little bit different. Starting at 20, we have Jacob Chikrin. He is an offensive defenseman who is now the number one defenseman in Washington due to John Carlson being traded away. His primary skill is not one you see from defensemen a lot. He is an elite goal scorer. We look at that: 26 goals this year, 20 the year before. As a defenseman, that's kind of crazy. You don't see that a lot. And he certainly is not, I wouldn't call him a two-way defenseman. He's pretty much all offense. But when your offense is that good and you're scoring at that rate, I think he's earned a spot in my top 20 personally. Next, his former teammate John Carlson, formerly of the Washington Capitals and Anaheim Ducks, now for the Tampa Bay Lightning. He is an elite puck-moving top power play defenseman. He's been doing it for a long time, and he is still elite. He's still probably one of the 10 best, strictly speaking, offensive defensemen in the league. And he's coming off his best season in a while, at least. But we look at these numbers, he's still racking up the assists. He's an amazing puck mover. And his defense isn't that bad. He might have been a little stink around his name for a while regarding his two-way play. But my philosophy when it comes to defensemen is there are guys who defend well, but the best guys don't have to defend because of how good they are at getting the puck up ice. Your puck movers are naturally good at defending because they don't have to defend as much. They don't do as much in-zone defending. So John Carlson, I think, is amazing, and I have him at 19. Next, I have Mikhail Sergachev. Him and the last two were not on NHL Network's top 20. Mikhail Sergachev plays for Utah. He's their number one defenseman. just like the last two, he is an elite offensive defenseman, a very good power play quarterback, a very good puck mover. He handles big minutes. He's not great defensively, but he gets by. He plays very hard minutes, very hard matchups, and he produces. He's coming off 59 points, 53 points the year before that, and the year before that he was very good, despite having I believe it was a pretty nasty leg break. So since he's been in Utah, he's been quite good. That's it's a very good pickup for them. I'm a big fan of Mikhail Sergachev. Next is a guy I am slightly lower on than the NHL Network's list, but just barely. Roman Josi. He is, again, I'm going to try not to say that again because these are the 20 best defensemen in the league in my eyes. They're all elite defensively, other than maybe one. Sure, you can guess who that is. But Roman Josi, he's been maybe the best offensive defenseman in the league across the last 10 years or so. And he's still got all of that offensive ability. He's a great puck mover. He's a very good skater. He produces at a high level still, even with he's missed a couple games because of a heart condition, but he still produces. And I'd have to really go back and look at all these guys, but I think he probably plays with the worst supporting cast in the league. Or on this list. His defense core is awful. And I don't have them in front of me, but I think he played most of the year with Nick Hague and maybe Nick Perbix. So, not bad players by any means, but in Brady Shea plays there as well. But he needs, if he had a better partner, he wouldn't have these horrendous plus minus numbers. And he could really be a little freer on the ice, but he's a great player, very offensively gifted defenseman, and he's been that for a while now. Next, at 16, another guy who's not on the NHL's list somehow. Formerly a defenseman for the Tampa Bay Lightning, now for the Toronto Maple Leafs, Darren Radish. I know people aren't going to like this, but he's coming off a 70-point season. And it's not like he was a chump before that. He had 37 points in 73 games. He was about half a point per game the year before last year, and he was 33 points the year before that. He is a very, very good offensive defenseman. And he stepped up huge for Tampa Bay. After Victor Hedman, who is not on my list either. But Victor Hedman kind of fell off for, we don't really know the reason. But Darren Radish filled his shoes and some. He had an amazing year. Now, do I think he's going to go to Toronto and be a 75 point defenseman like this year? No, I think he probably ends up more 50 to 55 points. But he's got a crazy shot. Like, he's got one of the best one-timers from the blue line in the league. And he's not a pylon out there. You could say that some of that is system, but he can handle himself both ways, and he's a very, very good offensive defenseman. I think 16 is incredibly fair for him. I could see him being higher. Like if he comes out and he puts three more 50-point seasons out there, he might be in my top 10. He's a very good player. Next, we're gonna go back to the NHL's top 20. Um, Starting at 15, they had Roman Josi, who we already talked about, and then Brock Faber, who I have mentioned already that he won't be here. And then they had Adam Fox, Jacob Slavin, and Charlie McAvoy. 15th on my list is Jacob Slavin. And I know people are going to be mad if if they watch this. They'll be mad about him being so low, but I've really never been on board with that whole kind of elitist thought process, like trying to sound smarter than you are, saying, "Oh, Jacob Slavin's the best defenseman in the league because he defends." Defenseman is a job title; it's not a job description. He's he's simply not very good offensively anymore. Now he was right. He had 37 a couple years ago, and before that he had if I'm not mistaken, I think he had an over a point per game or over half a point per game season before that. But if you're a number one defenseman, you have to be better offensively. That's not to say Jacob Slavin himself needs to be better offensively. He has a role and he does it very well. But he's not the type of player that's going to be any higher than this on a list of defensemen. You need offense more than you need defense. He doesn't provide it offensively, but he is so good defensively that he is the 15th best defenseman in the league in my eyes. That's no small feat. But I feel like I need to say why he's not higher, because a lot of people have him higher. Now that that's out of the way. Again, I don't want to sound negative, right? I have him 15th in the league. He is a great player. The lack of offense holds him back a little bit. Next, we have Josh Morrissey, who is which we're going to get into this. I've gone over 6 guys. They're all very strictly offense or defense. I think from here on out, they're all much more of two-way defensemen. And I'll probably have to make a case for one of them fitting that description, but that's probably how it's going to be from here on out. Josh Morrissey is a very good player. Flies under the radar a bit. I don't want to say he's coming off a down year, but the point production was down a little bit. If it wasn't, he'd be a good bit higher, I think. But he is an elite puck mover. He is an elite number one defenseman. And Winnipeg's fall off has nothing to do with him. He's been a great player for maybe five or so years now. I can't remember when his point per game season was, but he's an amazing offensive defenseman who can handle himself in his own end. Yeah, great player. I'm higher on him than the NHL Network's list is, I believe. Not by much, though. I think I could see a case for him anywhere from in the 10 to maybe 16 or 17 range. But I have him somewhere in the middle of that. Next, we have a guy I think I'm slightly lower on than the NHL Network, Charlie McAvoy. He's a bigger, physical, offensive defenseman. Um, he gets a little bit too. I think he might have a reputation as a two-way defenseman that is more less warranted than some other guys. I think people probably think that because he's physical and he'll block shots, but he's an offensive guy and he is good at it. He had a real big. I think I'd have to look. Last year might be his best point per his best per game season yet, and that was coming off of two pretty lackluster years, especially the year before last year. He was below half a point per game. But with this year being so much better, I think 13 is fair. He is a number one defenseman on a playoff team. Uh, and he does everything you could ask one your number one defenseman to do. He's very physical. He's very good offensively. He tries defensively. He handles the big minutes. This is a very good player. I don't think I'd have him any higher, but 13, nothing to scoff at. Next, a guy I would really like to have him higher, but there's so many good defensemen in the league. And he's got plenty of time. He'll probably be, you know, top. He might be top 5 next time I do this. Matthew Schaefer, Rookie of the Year, first overall pick, elite two-way defenseman for the Islanders at 18 years old. His the engine behind his game is his skating. He moves wonderfully, which is why he's so good both ways. That's, for the most part, your elite two-way defensemen are going to be amazing skaters. And he is the prototype. Huge year, 59 points, lots of goals too. I believe he had 23 goals, 36 assists. So the sky's the limit. If that's your rookie year, I don't know. I have a hard time having him down here, but the track record's not there. And again, there are so many good defensemen in the league. Next, a guy who was much lower on the NHL's list. Sorry about that. Some motorcycles outside. This guy, Jackson Lacombe, might be the most underrated player in the league. He, like everything I said about Matthew Schaefer, essentially. I mean, Lacombe's not as good of a skater. He's not bad, but everything I said about Schaefer applies here. Jackson Lacombe is, at this point, I think he's not the best defenseman, but he's perfect. He is everything you'd ask for. Elite both ends of the ice. Elite on the power play. Elite on the penalty kill. On an elite contract. He is. I'm sure everyone's seen Anaheim's defense core. He might play 40 minutes a game for them this year. This guy, he is the most integral part to their success this season. I get it, Leo Carlson is great. I get it, Cutter Gauthier scores a ton of goals. Jackson Lacombe is the most important. He is the best player on that team. He is the most important piece on that team. And I don't know if he'll ever get any higher than this on my list just because of how good these next 10 are. But this is an amazing player. And I'm really hoping that, not to say that people think he's bad, but I'm hoping he starts to maybe get his flowers a little bit more. Now we're going to break into the top 10. Looking at theirs, they had Evan Bouchard, Mort Seider, Jake Sanderson, Matthew Schaefer, and Lane Hudson. And I will say, I do have all those guys on my list. Not to say that all of them will be in the next 5, though. At 10, I have Lane Hudson. This is I have him lower than the NHL Network's list, but that's not a knock. He's a great player. He's amazing offensively. He's probably third or fourth best offensive defenseman in the league. And he has made plenty of strides defensively. He's much better defensively than he was. Part of that is that everyone will say that he plays lower competition, but it's just not his game to play higher you're not sending him out there to shut down your other team's best players, although he will get better at that, especially with the skating. That's such an important ability when it comes to like rush defense. And he is good at getting out of his own zone, so it's going to be hard to really hem him in there. So I'm not worried about the defense, even though I dislike Montreal. That makes this point even more valid coming from me. I don't care much for the whole he can't defend complaint, because it doesn't matter. He doesn't need to defend. He's going to sit at the top. He's going to carry the puck up out of his own zone. He's going to piss around at the blue line, and they're going to score goals, and he's going to rack up points, right? He's a point per game already, essentially. So he doesn't miss games either. That's a pretty impressive thing. But yeah, he's a great player. I have him at 10 just because I think there's 9 better guys. I know if any Montreal fans see this video, they're going to be furious about one of them. But he's an amazing player. Being the 10th best defenseman in the league is it's quite the accomplishment. And there's just 9 better guys. One of them is Adam Fox. What I said about Jackson Lacombe being underrated might be the case for Adam Fox more, because they had him at like 13 on the NHL Network list. That's absolutely ridiculous. And I'm not gonna cuss here, but that's it makes me want to. That's the dumbest crap I've ever seen. This guy is consistently one of the best defensemen in the league. He is a top 10 defender. He's great both ways because of his brain. He's an amazing puck mover. He is a great point producer. He needs to stay on the ice a little bit more. I don't think he's ever had a 82 game season. Could be wrong, and then there would be also the COVID shortened years. So, but we're looking at this point per game 2 years ago, 61 points in a down year. The year before last, and then almost a point per game again last year. This is pretty easy. If anything, he might be higher. I could see him being 7th. I could go all the way up to 7th. Amazing player. Next, the one I said Montreal fans would be upset about is Jake Sanderson. He is your prototypical number 1 defenseman in my eyes. Amazing skater, great both ways, good puck mover, very good point producer. Right? Look at this incline and points. I want to say he had 28 his rookie year. Could be wrong about that. Not entirely sure, but it sounds about right. And then he goes up to 38, and then he's up to 57, and then this year he's on pace for over 65. He's just the guy you want on the back end. Does do it all. And I think he's the 8th best in the league. I would probably not go higher. And him, Fox, Hudson, Lacombe, Schaefer, and the next guy, I'd say are all in the same tier. And I guess I could see any of them in any of those positions. Next is Evan Bouchard. People might not like this. I don't care. He had 95 points. He is a 95-point defenseman. You can tell by my profile picture, I'm a Blue Jackets fan. And my defenseman won the Norris. Evan Bouchard would have had my vote. He might be the best offensive defenseman in the league. I know he plays with Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl. I don't think that matters much. Obviously, the points are inflated a little bit, but he might have the best pass in the league. He's so accurate. It's insane. And the defensive stuff, he's not even bad consistently. Obviously, we all know he has a gaffe from time to time that typically is taken advantage of. But again, defenseman is a job title, not a description. And when you do something as good as he does, this is easy for me, having him all the way up here. I think the NHL Network had him somewhere in the lower teens. That's garbage, in my opinion. And it's garbage that so many supposedly knowledgeable people push the narrative that he's bad. This is a great player. And again, arguably the premier offensive defenseman in the league. Next at 6, I have Miro Heiskanen. And this is a tier jump. These next 6, in my opinion, are the definitive top 6 defensemen in the league. Miro Heiskanen's been the poster boy for two-way defensemen for the last 4 or 5 years now, for good reason. Imagine everything I said about Jake Sanderson and amplify it. This guy is the second best skater in the league, arguably first. If someone comes and tells me he's a better skater than Connor McDavid, I'd be like, no. But then if you know, talk to me for a bit, you might swing me. But he is he is the best pure two-way defender in the league. He's coming off a 63-point year after a down year with only half a point per game, but he was dealing with some injuries. The year before that, he had 54, and the year before that might have been his, was it 73 points? I think. Not sure, but so this is the guy. I've said probably since he broke out that if I could start, if I had to pick one defenseman to be my number one defenseman, it would be Miro Heiskanen. We'll get to someone who has dethroned him for that distinction, but if you're talking two-way defenseman, you're probably not getting better than this. Now we're looking again back at the top 5 for the NHL Network. They had Miro Heiskanen, who we just talked about, and then Rasmus Dahlin, Zach Werenski, Quinn Hughes, and Cale Makar, who will all be in my top 5. One of them is next, and that is Rasmus Dahlin. A lot of what I said for Heiskanen goes for Dahlin, but I'd say he's a little bit worse defensively and a decent bit better offensively. Dahlin is an amazing skater, an amazing offensive talent, while also bringing an edge physically. He's very physical. He throws lots of good hits. He's also kind of a little rat. He gets under guys' skin a lot. I think that kind of people picked up on that this year. He is so good, and it's a little upsetting that it took so long for Buffalo to take this jump with him really leading the charge, which I guess you could say he's got a little bit of blame in that too, but they did take that jump, and he's got a lot to do with it. Was he the third in Norris votes this year, I think, and that's well deserved. Almost a point per game this year. Similar, he pointed up at a similar rate last year. Not as many the year before, but I have to think some of that was finishing around him because he had 20 goals. So this is an elite two-way defenseman, great skating, great physicality, and 5th on my list. Next, I have Moritz Seider. Probably a good bit higher than a lot of people were expecting to see him. But as I said, someone dethroned Miro Heiskanen as my prototypical defenseman. I am talking about Moritz Seider. This guy is perfect, in my opinion. I'll just come out and say it. I think he's the best defensive defenseman in the league. I think he's better defensively than Jacob Slavin. And he put up 60 points. Jacob Slavin had 8. So you put up 60 points. He had to have been, I don't know. He had to have been top 15 in offensive. He had to be a top 15 offensive defenseman this year, while also being the best defensive defenseman. While being incredibly physical. He's maybe, other than McAvoy, maybe I'd say he's the most physical guy on this list. He's also an amazing skater, and I think there's plenty of room to grow here. Right? He's been stapled to Ben Sherratt for the past what, 4 years at this point. So maybe not four, maybe though. Now he's playing with Edvinson, and I'm thinking maybe you see another jump offensively. I think there's more here. And hopefully some of Detroit's young talent. Well, I guess hopefully not. I'd like to see Detroit be bad. They're a direct competitor. Not too bad though. They're in a different division. But if Detroit's young talent develops and they get more depth as a team, this might be you might be talking about the best defensive defenseman in the league while being a 70-plus point guy. He's incredible. I'm I he might be the second best defenseman in the league. I feel like that's not crazy. But I have him at fourth because he hasn't quite built up that reputation yet. But if he replicates this next year or improves upon it, I think he's higher. Probably not consensus, because I think the consensus would have him lower. But again, like I said, that will be my final quote on him. Moritz Seider is a perfect defenseman. Next at third, we have my defenseman, my team's defenseman, and the reigning Norris winner, Zach Werenski. He's pretty good defensively. He can handle himself defensively. He plays the most minutes in the NHL. He did 2 years ago, at least. The year before last, I don't know about this year. Maybe Hughes passed him, but he's an absolute workhorse, and he scores a lot of points. He's got a great shot. 59 assists in back-to-back years, but he missed some time this year. I don't think I really have to make a case for him. He's arrived in everybody's minds. We all know. Everyone's pretty familiar with the top three guys, why they're in the order they are, and what they bring to the table. So we have Zach Werenski, third best defenseman in the league. I'd say that's consensus, and the reigning Norris Trophy winner. Next is Quinn Hughes. I do have a hard time putting him above Werenski, but at some point, if everybody says something is the way it is, then you might have to accept that is the way it is. Elite puck mover, elite skater. He's pointed up at a ridiculous rate once he went to Minnesota. So 2 seems all but a foregone conclusion for him. Again, amazing player. 92 points 3 years ago. 76 and 68 last year. So he was on pace for another 90-point season. And I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I would venture to say he might have maybe scored at a 90-point pace in Minnesota this year. So he's consistent, and he's consistently great. And some people think he's the best defenseman in the league. I still have the next guy ahead of him. And shocker, it's Cale Makar. The analytics are not as kind to him, but I tend to think analytics have a hard time explaining a guy who shouldn't be as good as he is, if that makes sense. Like, Cale Makar's skill, his shot, his skating, his passing ability, it works in a way that a computer can't understand because it doesn't have eyes. It can't watch. You know, it's like I guess Nikita Kucherov is like that too. I'm trying to think of an example. Like, we'll just stay in hockey. Like, if a guy, I'll just go with Kucherov. Kucherov's on ice shooting percentage is always among the highest in the league. And on ice shooting percentage is always something that's people look at when they're trying to see if someone's going to fall off. And a computer will call that suspect if someone's on ice shooting percentage is super high. But if someone's on ice shooting percentage is consistently very high, then that's just what they are. They're making plays that they shouldn't be able to make. That's what Cale Makar is. That's why the computer doesn't like him. We look at these numbers: 30 goals last year, or the year before last year, 90 points the year before that. And this year he had a down year. He had 79 points in 75 games. That was his down year. I've seen people kind of get tired of him a little bit. But I think that's just fatigue. People are tired of him being as good as he is. I think he's still the best defenseman in the league. I think he's pretty far and away the best defenseman in the league. So that's all I got. To recap, I had Jacob Chikrin at 20, John Carlson at 19, Mikhail Sergachev at 18, Roman Josi at 17, Darren Radish at 16, Jacob Slavin at 17, or 15, sorry, Josh Morrissey at 14, Charlie McAvoy at 13, Matthew Schaefer at 12, Jackson Lacombe at 11, Lane Hudson at 10, Adam Fox at 9, Jake Sanderson at 8, Evan Bouchard at 7, Miro Heiskanen at 6, Rasmus Dahlin at 5, Moritz Seider, the perfect defenseman, at 4, Zach Werenski at 3, Quinn Hughes at 2. This is a great picture, by the way. And Cale Makar at 1. Thanks for watching. I'm assuming my next video will be when the NHL releases their top 20 centers. I'm not going to rank my top 20 centers. I'm just going to do all forwards. So I guess I don't have to wait on that because I won't have a list to compare it to. But that will probably be my next list. I already have it put together. Spoiler alert, Connor McDavid's number 1. And then by the time that comes out, we'll be, a month and a half away from the season. So less than a month away from training camp. I'm excited. After that, I'll probably have another off-season rundown to talk about some things. Hopefully some things happen that I can talk about. And then we'll get into some season stuff. Maybe some team previews and some hot takes of mine. Things I'm expecting to see in the season. So hopefully a couple people watch this, and if you did and made it this far, hopefully you like it. All input is welcome down below, whether that's about my opinions or my presentation. Thanks.